the Amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening, good evening. I'm Crystal Gunn, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. Thank you so much for joining us. And so while you're getting settled in for the show, please do me the favor, hit the share button. Share Amazing Women Speak so your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. And another great conversation that is. And last week we talked about the pillars of the Amazing Woman Network, which are reclaiming personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming financial power, and increasing our social involvement. So this is the second episode derived from those pillars specifically for this one. It's reclaiming our financial power, right? And so, financial empowerment is my thing, right? And so remember, everyone has a personal financial relationship. It wasn't defined by you, and it does not work in your favor. The goal is to redefine it so that it does. But it takes work, but it's so worth it in the end. So let's talk about it. From stress to success, transforming your financial story. But you know the drill. I got to introduce the BFF, or let her introduce herself. And again, say thank you for saying yes to Amazing Women Speak and being as dope and amazing as you are.
Hello. How are you?
Wonderful. How about you?
Are you maintaining and containing yourself, knowing what tonight's topic is? Just need to know.
Forgive me if I jump up
on your street.
Yeah.
Yes. Your favorite pillar of the three. I'm excited to be able to have this conversation and pull you in as definitely an added resource and a leading voice in this space, especially when it comes to the reclamation for Black women around owning their financial story. So really excited to pull you into this conversation and hear from our two amazing guests and hear their perspective and their stories as to the reason why this conversation resonated with them. So as I always say, this is the fastest hour of our day. We don't spend time in shallow waters because we don't have time for it. So let's introduce our guests, and we certainly hope that you will be a part of this conversation by dropping your questions, your comments in the chat. We would love to pull you in, would love to hear your voice, and would love to hear your story. But before we can do that, Brandi, please come in and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Brandi Vilo. I'm from Prairieville, Louisiana, Southern Louisiana girl. My profession is product management, product ownership. I help government systems launch their software for Medicaid here in the state of Louisiana. I'm also an ambassador for Brown Skin Bruncheon in the Baton Rouge chapter. I'm their regional ambassador. And I also help out with 100 Black women. I just got initiated in this fall of 2024. So I'm just here and enjoying the life I've been blessed with.
Yeah, doing the things.
All the
things. To it. So yes. Looking forward to hearing more about the many spaces that you are bringing your energy to and learn more about your story. Lori, please come in and introduce yourself to the folks.
Hello, everyone. I am Yolore McDaniel. I recently transitioned into tech. I am a Salesforce operation analyst at CHN Housing Networks. It is it's a company that helps to stabilize families with homeownership.
Welcome. Mm-hmm. So before we brought you in, I was reminding our guests that this is the fastest hour of our day, and we don't have time to play in shallow waters. We need to launch deep. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to share, many resources that I know that you all will bring into the room by merely telling your story and how you came over and how you moved from stress to success with your financial story. So we want to just dive right into this conversation. And before we can ever talk about success, we really have to lean on the things that stressed us, that made us recognize that we needed another path. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what that story was like for you And what did it cost you before you even recognized you were paying a price you could not afford with your financial story? So, Brandi, share a little bit about your financial story and the stress that it provided for you. Again, when you were paying a cost you didn't even know that you were paying.
My financial story. I'm an only child. So I never had to take care of myself. I went from my father taking care of me to my ex-husband taking care of me. And then one day I found myself a newly divorced mom who, in my head, Miss Crystal talk about me to this day, that I thought I had to struggle. I thought I had to struggle. I thought I was struggling. And I convinced myself along the way that struggling and barely getting by was my story. It felt safe. It felt comfortable. Even though I knew I was able to do certain things, I was able to acquire certain things, but there was still a part of me that said, girl, we still struggling. We getting it out the mud. We at the bottom. And then I guess it was end of 2023, beginning of 2024, I got introduced to this lovely lady, Miss Crystal. It almost brings the tears to my eye. And I went through my finances with her, and she said, tell me again what you think you is. And I said, I don't have it. I'm not doing as well as I'm not. I don't know where it's going. And it was so, I had convinced myself that I was broke. I convinced myself that I was poor. And that was my healthy place. It was my story. No matter how much I accomplished, no matter what things I had, my mindset was I was poor, I was broke. Wow. And that was my story.
Wow. Definitely have to unpack some more of that, right? Like how that conversation with Crystal, like for many folks, changed the narrative, right? And recognize that there is a dimmer to this journey around financial success. Definitely want to hear more about that and how you moved from that narrative to the one that you sit with now. Lori, tell us a little bit about, yeah. Let's bring in Lori and then we're going to circle back. Lori, tell us a little bit about your story.
Actually, my story probably goes a little bit further than what Crystal even knows, but I actually spent some time without housing with 4 kids. So I think a lot of that time taught me, okay, we got to get this together and we can't keep playing with this money because you got these babies and you need a place to live, so that time taught me how to buckle down and make sure my money is going where it needs to go. But for me, that only taught me how to live check to check and how to make sure I'm paying the bills. So I went from there to having a place to stay and having my kids, but now I'm living check to check. All of my money is going to bills and trying to make sure everything stays afloat. Because once you live at a certain point, it's like, I'm not going back to not having a place to live.
Right.
But now I have to learn how to stride, to really live a full life and not just be living to pay bills. So, meeting Crystal, and I going through her program, still going through with her. She has to slap me back in place from time to time. But
she does all of us.
she refocused me and positioned me to where now my finances is an asset to me where I can use to live the life that I want to live, as opposed to using my finances just to stay above water. Right. Because we're not doing that. We are here to live life and enjoy it and, live it to the full, and experience life to the full. And you cannot do that when you're trying to pay a bill, living check to check, to pay a bill, to have nothing left to do it all over again next week. So that's my story.
So Right, like already hearing this connection. So, Crystal, for somebody who's listening who may pick this up later, I need for you to share a little bit about your journey and to the reason why the formula that you use invites people in differently than most financial strategists do, that changes folks, not just through their finances, but the way they think about themselves, the way they think about themselves with money and without, and the connection that you have with Black women that keeps them knocking on your door, right? Like there's a lived experience that you bring to this conversation. And again, for those that are listening for the first time or may pick this up later, tell us a little bit about that.
So there was a time when, you know, as we say in life, I was, you know, winning. I was vice president of a credit union, then all of the things, right? Vice president of credit union. I quit that. I was getting married, started a mortgage company with my husband at the time, and we got married, had a beautiful baby girl. Mortgage industry crashed. Um, but even after that, we still continued that. We got divorced 5 years into that. And I started another business and then another business. Entrepreneurship was my, well, I thought it was my thing, entrepreneurship. But there became a point in time where the financial storm hit and I just didn't know what to do and or how to recover from it. So I had to learn and figure it out. And back then, this was like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 years ago. And so back then there wasn't a lot of people out there like me. Social media wasn't where it is now, where you can go and you can find all of the things from the gurus. So I had to figure it out. I had to pray it out. I had to do a lot of research and learn. And I had to regain everything that I had lost. So, you know, credit was now in the toilet. I had no money in savings, had gone through depression and all of that. But I had to figure it out. And I did. And not knowing going through that storm, why I had to go through the storm. But coming back and coming out of it, I realized it was God setting me up for my path of something I was supposed to do, which is what I have been doing ever since. But going back into the storm to help others come out of the storm. Because when you're in the middle of it, you can't always see out of it. And I think going through it, as opposed to just saying, okay, you know what, I just want to empower people. But going through it gave me empathy. I understood it. So for me, it's always a judge-free zone. Plus, I'm going to speak life into you because I know what it's like to feel less than because I did not have what I thought I was supposed to have. So I'm always going to speak life into you because it's hard to go through that storm. So I'm going to walk with you. And I love it.
So, Brandi, talk about the walk, right? Like when you said it, like you were like, I tear up even thinking about it, and changing that narrative of how you saw yourself in that time to where you are now.
Oh, the walk was painful. It was, the walk
It's
was
real.
It was real. It was very painful. I couldn't stand Miss Crystal for the first month or two. It was very it was very uncomfortable. I can remember days of telling my best friend, I don't know if I could do this. I'm not, you know, I was already doing stuff in therapy, and now here she come with pulling back these layers of this I guess how the easiest way to say it, of this wall I built for myself because I was uncomfortable believing that I made it. I was uncomfortable accepting where I was this part of my life. And here she come with all her jolly good sunshine telling me, you did do this. You can do this. You're capable of doing this. And I was like, ma'am, I held this boundary for myself all this time, and now here you want to walk in and make me think that it's okay. Mm-mm. And I guess I would tell anybody that have their own financial struggles, and therapy mental health therapy and financial therapy go hand in hand, because I would have never been able to receive what Miss Crystal was telling me if I wasn't on my own mental health healing journey.
Mm.
So it worked out for my good, because I was able to receive what she was telling me, and I was already there. It was like God ordained the two to come at the same time. But because if I would have ever met her before that time, I wouldn't have been able to receive it, and I wouldn't be able to accomplish the goals I've accomplished today because of it.
So, right, like there's this piece that's connected to this beyond the actual dollar itself, right? Like it's the way that we think about money, the way we were raised to think about money, what society tells us. And so, Crystal, you always talk about the trauma piece. Talk to us about that.
So I think I started this off with saying, and it ties into that. Like everyone has a personal financial relationship. It wasn't defined by you, and it doesn't work in your favor. It was defined by what you inherited generationally, assets, and all of then the financial trauma that was passed down, slavery and post-slavery. It's coded in us, right? And so when you think about how during slavery we didn't earn revenue, our talents in labor was exploited. So if I don't earn revenue, how do I know how to budget? I can't, because I never used that muscle. Post emancipation, right? Well, now we getting some money, but it's not. So I just have enough to pay the bills. So I make sure the bills are paid. And then every other thing, specifically as women, which went along with that. Well, we got to do whatever we got to do in order to survive, because we hear that often, right? And we say that often. And that doesn't always look pretty. So all of those traumas, then what did you see growing up? What was taught to you, what wasn't taught, what was told to you, what you overheard, and then created some other type of, thought process along finances. Who let you down in life? Like what happened in high school? Were you a cool kid and trying to be a cool kid? Like all of these things. Then you add on top of that social media, music, television, all of those things jack you up, add all of the trauma. I don't have this. I don't wear this. I don't drive that. And you think, okay, I don't have it. And so understanding all of that and how it impacts us and how it was passed down, um, going back and redefining that story and healing from that. And I'm a firm believer in all of the things that they say Black people need to do. We got to support one another. We got to come together. We got to support Black businesses, and we have to work together. We can't do none of that if we don't heal our own traumas and personal financial relationships.
Absolutely. Right. So dominant culture values would have us believed that our identities are tied to what we have, what we drive, right? Like where we live, all of those things. And so, Lori, as you're coming out of recognizing, right, like I am an unhoused individual with 4 children depending on me, right, like we know that wasn't a light switch, right? Like one day you got a paycheck and now you're in a home. Like there was this journey involved in this, and you recognized, like, okay, so I made step 1. I can't just keep living paycheck to paycheck. Like, what were some of those things, and what were you telling yourself so that your children felt that they knew mom had us, right? Like this was going to be okay. What were some of those early conversations you were having with yourself before you got a hold of the gift of being in space with Crystal?
Well, I just want to add one thing too, because you guys spoke a lot about society, the way it impacts us as far as feeling like we need to be a certain type of way, look a certain type of way. But because of, me, having the period of time where it was bare bones, so because my journey was because it was what it was, it did not allow me to attach to a lot of the societal norms. It did not allow me to attach to the ideas of I have to look a certain type of way to show up, or I have to, I didn't have time for it, So my best was enough. Our best was enough. And because of that, a lot of the societal things, the fads, the trends, or I got to drive this, or my car got to look like this, it did not affect it. It couldn't take hold. So I feel like that was a financial shield for me that worked in my
Wow.
benefit, you
Wow.
know. And to speak on your question to what was those conversations that I had with myself, it was really just continuous elevation. I'm a type of person where I love to learn, I love information. So it's like I know I have to continually elevate myself mentally and just in the things that I'm doing so that I can continue to provide because as my children get older, as they get older, they need more. So little kids are a little easier to take care of than when these big kids. So it's like they need. So I had to continue to elevate myself. And even to now, where they're teenagers and about to be adults, it's like I still have to make sure I am in a position where if I need to support them, they have room, so that continues to put the fire up under me to continue to grow, continue to learn, to continue to expand myself. Because, they might have a family and might need some, whatever it is. I want to be able to be that pad where if you need it, it's here. But my hope is that you're good, But that is my why that gave me the continual push forward, the continual drive to continue to learn, to continue to do things according to what's best because I wanted it to be best for them.
I really appreciate your perspective and your vulnerability in sharing that part of you, because not many of us have the ability, know enough about self to not get caught up, right? And so to acknowledge that what would feel like for most a failure, you recognize like it shielded you. It was a good thing, right? At that time that you didn't get sucked in and you weren't trying to chase those things. Like you were needing to provide that. So I really appreciate that perspective and the importance of us, no matter what our situation, there's another side of that coin to be considered
Absolutely.
as a way of pulling yourself up. So thank you, because it's really easy to get sucked down
Yeah.
and caught up into what society is telling us. And we beat ourselves up for the things that we don't have, even when we don't even need them. Right. And so thank you
A lot of them
for
we don't
sharing
need.
that part. Right. Like the majority
A
of it.
lot of them we do not need.
Yeah. It really is incredible the amount of things, Crystal, the number of things she says that we have in our house, right?
Yes.
And that we aren't using, aren't touching, but had this need to have it. And so those are the kind of things that begin to cause stress, right? Like chasing something that's unobtainable or wasn't designed for you. So no matter how close you think you get to it, God's going to intentionally move it from you because he did not intend for you to have it. So, Crystal, when we start to recognize those stressors beyond living paycheck to paycheck, because there's a lot of us who have been socialized like that's enough, right? Like I'm doing good if I go from one pay. Like, what are some of those stressors that we should be paying attention to that's telling us that our financial story is not stable?
Being late on bills,
Mm.
right? Having a lot of credit card debt, paying the minimum payments on credit cards, needing assistance somehow, some way, not being able to do the things that you want to do. Life is about living, and we should be living life, but oh, I can't because I need to pay this bill. I need, this credit card debt. And those stresses then start to show up. We know stress manifests in that body, shows up as sickness, illness, disease, which then just makes the situation worse because now you're on some sort of medication and now you have to pay for that. It it can harm relationships. It can lead you to staying in relationships for too long because you need that financial help. It can keep you. It can you then can start to do things that you don't necessarily want to do because again, I got to do whatever it is I got to do in order to get the dollar. So it shows up in all of these different forms that are negatively impacting you and really and truly digging a bigger hole. You're looking for someone to just take care of you. So you you're looking for an asset, but you yourself are a liability. So all of these things, it shows up in all of these type of ways. And then we unknowingly pass that down to our children. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even have to have a conversation about it, right? Like they are paying attention in ways that we don't think that they are. So, Brandi, what was the stressor that you said, okay, here's the line, right? Like we're going to change direction. This can no longer, it's no longer serving me. What was that stress factor for you?
That's a good question. I think it started a long time ago when, like she said, you stay in relationships because of comfort, because you didn't know how to manage money. You didn't know how to take care of yourself because somebody had always taken care of you, and that's how you was taught you was to be taken care of. I never learned how to stand on my own 2 feet. And even when I lived this life here in Baton Rouge, I still was taking care of myself, but the bare minimum. And then it was just like a light bulb went off, and I didn't want nobody to take care of me. I didn't want to ask my best friend to help me make big decisions. I didn't want somebody else to make those decisions for me. I wanted to take ownership of my life. I wanted to take ownership for myself. And it was just like, I don't know why I'm getting so overwhelmed. I wanted to take ownership for myself and believe that my decisions were my decision and I make good decisions for myself. I just need to learn how. And once I got the foundation and learned how, then I knew what was best for me. I knew that nobody else had to make those decisions for me. I can make them for myself.
Yeah, reclaiming your power is something, right? Like that should touch you and make you feel exactly what you're feeling. It's so powerful. And it takes a lot of us a long time, if ever, to really get there. We can keep telling ourselves the same story we've always told and sit in the same space we've always sat and be okay with that. So reclaiming your power is a beautiful thing. And feeling whatever that feeling is
overwhelmed.
Right? And it's okay. It is okay. What you've come with on the other side is a beautiful thing, right? Like when you entered the conversation and shared many of the roles that you walk in this life, very different from the Brandi 5 years, 10 years ago when you were relying on somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like from the ways in which we were raised, right? Like you don't think about it until you have to unpack and think about it. To go from your house to a college dorm to into somebody else, right? Like to never realize, oh, I've never done this on my own. And what are the tools and the resources do I need in order to? And who do you ask that? Because now you're standing as an adult, almost embarrassed to have to ask somebody
That
because
part.
you should have had, right? Like you should have had it figured out. As who?
And that's where I always say, give yourself some grace. It's not taught to us in schools. That's by design. And then you don't know what you don't know. So even if you had somebody to ask, what are you asking? Because you really and truly don't know, where there's so many components, so many pieces that go into this whole financial thing. Like, where do you even start? And then it can be so overwhelming that you just retreat and say, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to live how I've been living because it's comfortable. When it's really not comfortable, you're just in survival mode and it's what you know. So,
and that really takes a great level of humility anyhow, to be an adult and to still need that guidance and to still need that help and just to reach out and say, all right, I need somebody to help me with it. I mean, me personally, I'm like, listen, y'all, I need y'all to help me. But that takes it takes a lot. It really, really does. And then once you get that help to fully show, because I will be honest, there's some stuff I did not. I asked Crystal for the help, but there was some stuff I ain't want to tell her. I ain't want to tell her.
Right.
Tell her this. I'm not going to talk about that. Because it does, it really, it really goes deep, and really showing another person or, just to talk about the areas where you've made financial mistakes. That can be kind of hard, but that we have to remember too, like that's our only way forward if we want to get out of the cycle that we're in,
Right. Yeah, that shame that you carry with that. Like, how do you break that? How do you break that?
just
You gotta talk about it.
you right. You gotta just do it. You have to just do it. Like you literally have to just jump out there and say it. Because when I tell you, I was like, I'm gonna tell her this, but I ain't telling her about that. But I'm like, Lori, you are not going to get through this if you don't tell this woman about all of this stuff. So I had to be like, okay, I have a confession to make. I have a confession to make. You know, I kept coming in like, okay, I have another confession to make.
But that's the thing too. Like, we don't have a problem asking anybody, you know, to babysit our kids. Can I borrow this? Can I do that? But then you do have this problem asking about financial and not even help. I mean, help is part of it, but I don't know how to do this and I need help on how to do this. Because I get people that call all the time and say, Crystal, I make too much money and fill in the blank to have all of this debt, to not have money in savings, to this, that, or the other. But again, it's that conditioning. And that's the piece that I really want people to understand. We got to talk about it. There's a 2053 prediction that says, despite the fact that people of color will be the majority population in 2053, if the current financial trend continues, Blacks will have zero wealth. And if we're not talking about it, if we're not talking about how to fix it, repair it, heal from it, that 2053 prediction is going to come true. And when you think about how old are your kids going to be in 2053, it's like we have to do something, financial conversations, and going to get the information. Like there's some statements that I say that are wreaking havoc, right? On us financially, because we say these things and we think that we have all of the facts and we know all of the things. I make good money, right? Yeah, you make good money, but how much are you saving? Are you ready for retirement? Are you planning for that? Do you have things to protect your assets in place? Or, well, I got good credit. So you don't want to go to a workshop or whatever because you think someone's going to think a certain thing about you. Where my challenge is, maybe they're thinking, oh, wow, they came out to get more information. They came out to better themselves financially so that we can pass down this generational wealth, right? We got to talk about it so that we can heal from it.
Yeah, Mika in the chat says, pride holds us bondage.
Ooh, say it.
Right, a very true statement, especially in the Black community. Again, because we are chasing something that was never intended for us. And so when it gets to a place where it's cost us more than we can afford to pay, we don't want to acknowledge that. And we dig the hole a little deeper. And so we continue to dig, again, because pride will keep us from telling all of the story, sharing all of the information, right? And so, Brandi, how do I ask you this? So as you talk about your journey, right? And on the other side of this, you begin to create this success story, right? And you find your name spoken in different rooms and you're invited in different spaces. Did you equate that part to a part of your financial freedom? Or did that come as a result of being invited and acknowledged in those ways?
Can you ask me one more time?
Yeah, so
loaded.
Right, like so the spaces where you are being invited, right? Like your name is being spoken. Was that a result of the financial success and the freedoms that you have obtained? Or was it you discovered because of those invitations that you are achieving this level of success, that finances is also a part of that story?
I think it's a lot to do with duality. I think it was all of the above. When I finally saw myself, light attracts light. And so the spaces that I'm able to maneuver in today, the people that I attract, was because now I saw it in myself. So I was projecting that out. I think at one time, because I was in darkness and I had a lot of darkness, I attracted dark things, like not just bad energy, bad juju.
Yeah.
But now that I can see myself and I I literally, you know, how people say, oh, I see myself. No, I really do see myself. Like, I really do understand who Brandi is. And being able to take that financial journey, I became confident in my finances, because at one time I wasn't confident in myself or my finances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it had a lot to do with duality. I found myself, and in the process, I found confidence in who I was in my finances, which allowed me to feel confident in the spaces where finances sometimes were on the table, and they had other people that had the same finances, and I didn't shy away because I felt like, oh, I belong at this table. This table,
Okay.
you know, I can sit at this table and chop it up with the best of them because I'm not shying away. I belong here. I can sit here, and nobody can take that.
And so one of the messages, right, like that I want folks to hear is that the energy that you bring, the gift of you that you bring, you can be invited in spaces. You don't have to hit this financial level of. One will attract the other, right? And vice versa. And so, Crystal, I want you to talk a little bit about, right, like dominant culture value has us practicing what's called either or thinking. I can do this or I can do that, right? Like when the reality around the conversation, it should be both and.
Correct.
I can do this and I can do that. But either or thinking would have us, if I love this lifestyle, the things that living paycheck to paycheck provides me, if I'm going to save, that means I can no longer do that, right? And so I want to keep doing that. I love that thing. How do we break that either or thinking when we think about our finances? And what does that sacrifice look like short term so that we can land at the both and?
Oh, absolutely. So I do want to back up 1 second, because I always say that when you heal and redefine your personal financial relationship, it positively impacts every other area in your life, because the same things that are negatively, the habits, the thought practices, all of that, that's negatively impacting your financial relationship is showing up in all those other places too, right? So they do go hand in hand, right? And I don't know, I serve a God that says you can have it all, but you got to have a plan to have it all.
Lean in, Lori.
You definitely have to have a plan, and it starts, and Lori and Brandi probably both about to roll their eyes when I say it starts with that efficient and effective budget, right? Because most people don't even know where their money is going, right? Or they can name the bills, they can name all of the, you know, oh, these bills, these bills. Okay, well, now you got this extra money left over. You're not being intentional with that. You're just you're spending it because it's there. And so in order to be able to have the both and, you got to be intentional with your money. Every dollar you earn should have a job. That job is for travel. That job is for paying the bills. That job is for, you know, life insurance. That job is for retirement. That job is for, you know, my kids. Every dollar. And it's not about, people hear the word budget and they think, oh my God, that means I can't. Oh my God, it means restrictions.
Right.
No, it should mean that I'm being intentional so that I can live the life that I desire and deserve. Because here's the other piece of that. We've been conditioned to desire less than we deserve. So we're chasing and we're buying
Say that
all
again
this.
for the people in the back.
Yes.
Definitely been conditioned to desire less than we deserve. Now, you may say, I want to travel out of the country 4 times a year. Well, today your money and your budget may say you can only travel out of the country once. You can travel out of state twice and then in state once. Like you got, you know what I mean? But then when you become intentional with your money and you say, I'm putting this amount of money aside for travel, you will get to the point where you can travel outside of the country 4 times a year. But you're not going to get there if you just keep doing and because we blow a lot of money, right? Everybody has said, dang, I spent $200. Where did it go this weekend, right? You go out the house and spend $100 and walk into the garage, I swear. So until we become intentional with that, you it's impossible to have both.
I want to say something too, because she mentioned how you can have both. And I just can remember a time where I was just going about my day and I was, how you just had a conversation with God in your mind and in your heart, like, well, Lord, is it this or is it that? Like, which one is it? And I remember feeling in my heart, like it's this and that. It's this and that. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. Both things can be true at the same time. And when I got that, I applied it to everything. I'm like, okay, so no longer did I have to push one thing out to accept in a new thought or to accept in a new understanding, but I had to figure out how the two things work together and how the two things go together. So I just thought about that when you asked the question you asked, Michele, and it was really good. Because we do a lot of times we think like, well, if this is true, then that ain't true. And then we be lost and confused as to how things make sense together. And it's like, no, baby, no. We get to have it all and it's all okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I really love this question. Latrice dropped in the chat. Can you be so financially traumatized that you don't spend, like you're afraid to treat yourself?
Absolutely.
That sounds familiar, Brandi.
I feel like a lot of times, and I don't mean to jump in on this, but I feel like lot of times, like, I don't necessarily say, especially the African Americans, either we spend too much or we fear and don't enjoy what we have. And it's like, there again, that this and that, like you can spend and enjoy your money and still save and still build as you should. It's having that balance. And again, it comes back to going back to that budget and your dollars having a job and knowing where your money is going and make sure it's going to the things that you want to benefit you and just not flying out the back window. Because a lot of times our money flies out the back window on the smaller things that is not necessarily our greatest desire. And we feel like we can't reach our greatest desire when we can, if we just maybe buy one less coffee a week or one less car wash or, again, giving that money, that job. But yes, and being so traumatized that we don't spend, absolutely. But that goes back to what Brandi was talking about at the beginning when she said that financial healing and that healing. And a lot of times we have to evaluate the things that we hold in our hearts and in our minds and, evaluate the things that we have been taught and seen. Because a lot of times we do things a certain type of way and we never take the time to stop and ask ourselves, why? Why do I do this? Why have I chosen this continuously? And sometimes there are habits that we don't even know that we have, but slowing down and taking that second to ask, like, why am I choosing this way? Sometimes can just be, that the help that we need.
So, Brandi, when I read that question, right, like it resonated with you. Would love to hear you speak on that.
I still struggle with it, even though I'm financially healed. I still struggle on what I can't and can't do. And I don't know why, like when me and Miss Crystal have our sessions, she'll be like, yes, you can. You do have the money for it. I'm looking at it right there. And so, yeah, I mean, even though I can say I'm on the other side, probably 75, I would say 75, 80% reformed. 75, 80% look reformed. I, as the old people used to call it, I don't pole mouth anymore. I don't claim that I'm broke anymore. But I still have those moments where I do feel like I ain't got no money. And then I get a reality dose check from this lady over here in the top corner. And she reminds me that I'm not. And I remember in our first session where I realized that I wasn't. Like, I never looked at a paycheck stub. I was just spending money. I never looked at my finances. I never looked at my budget because I was afraid to admit to myself that, girl, you're not broke. Because I had been convinced it to myself and my soul and my heart that I was. And it was very uncomfortable. I remember the session, I probably fidgeted for about 30 minutes. And she was like, I need you to get on camera. And I was just like, it was the most uncomfortable thing because I wanted to claim something that people fight all the time, but I was comfortable sitting there. And that wasn't the lifestyle I was raised in. but it was safe, and I couldn't figure. I'm still searching. Me and my therapist are still working through why I felt, and staying in that poverty mindset was a safe place for me, even though nothing in my life looked like I came from a poverty mindset.
Right.
Brandi, I remember you making a comment, and I think this is a perfect place for it. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words, but you said something to the effect of, if I continue to say that I'm at the bottom, that when I fall, it doesn't hurt so bad, or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I just thought that was huge.
I guess in my lifetime, I've had so many times where people have tried to knock. Like, I would get to a place that, okay, I feel good, I feel comfortable, I feel secure, and then somebody would just shove me off. So I got tired of climbing on that pedestal. I got tired of sitting up there. I got tired of sitting back with my shoulders back and saying, I've arrived, I've made it, I did something good. I got tired of being there and falling down, because I'm also a recovering people pleaser. So I got tired of trying to be a perfectionist and having this perfect world that would be shattered. And I didn't have the applause no more. I didn't have people saying, that's the girl, the good girl, you did good. So it was easy to stay down because I was off the radar. Nobody saw me. I didn't share my successes with my family, my friends. And then I got overzealous in trying to prove to the world that hey, I'm somebody. Hey, y'all, I'm doing good. And then I got to a point where I just didn't give a shit anymore. And I didn't give a shit.
It's freedom in that place. Okay.
And I accepted me for me, and whoever was rocking, they was rocking. If they was rocking, I was rolling. And that's how I live my life now.
So go ahead, Crystal.
I just want to go to the second part of that statement that Latrice said, that afraid to treat yourself. And there's a huge part in that. Not only are people financially traumatized to spend, right? But then it's also that they won't spend on themselves. Now, I'm not saying spend all, y'all know me. I'm not saying spend all your money on the things, you have the things. But I'm also a firm believer. I remember a client said, she wasn't a client at this time, but she said she wanted to be. And I said, why haven't you called me yet? And she said, because I am scared that you're going to tell me I can't get my hair and nails done. I said, no. That's not, again, it's not about sacrifice. You can't be afraid to treat yourself, but you have to do things with a plan. And it's not something that you have to just go over every single day. But when you assign those dollars to that, you're then allowed to do that. But also part of that is there's a self-worth component that goes along with what you think about yourself, and because there are people that spend money on everybody else but themselves. Like, we have to go back and look at that piece too. And so, there's a healing that has to happen.
So, right. And the mistake that many of us make is trying to go in this journey alone. Me putting gas in my car doesn't make me a mechanic. Me being able to roll my hair doesn't make me a beautician, right? Like, we need to stop thinking that these are things that we can do on our own. We need to be able to seek the assistance, because there's so many moving parts to your financial journey that if you are not in it every single day, you won't know enough about it to really overcome. So I want us to stop thinking that we can figure it out, right? I want you to look at your banking account and tell me, have you figured it out?
Right.
Because if you could, you would have already done so, right? And so let's get over the stigma, just like mental health and therapy, of asking for the help that we need in the Black community. We don't want anybody to know how many dollars we have or don't have. So we put on these facades and we create more problems than they're worth. Get help. The level of help you need, you'll discover in that journey, but you have to make the call. You have to have the conversation. And if you need to pair it with therapy, if you need to pair it with whatever you need to pair it with, do so. Just stop thinking that you can figure this thing out, because there are so many life insurance, right? Credit score, and what does that mean, right? Savings versus long life of whole life term insurance, like all of the things.
Mhm.
What's yielding, what's not. Like, if you're not in that every single day, and so how do I make those dollars work for me? You've got to be able to go see somebody. So Chris, I want you to wrap us up when we get there. I'm putting this out there ahead of time to talk about those things and how folks can reach you to start this conversation. Lori and Brandi, I told you, fastest hour of your day.
Yeah.
Before we begin to wrap up and you share about the gifts that you bring in the spaces, tell us what this financial journey and coming through, getting to that 75-80%, Brandi, what freedom did you get that the dollar couldn't pay for?
Peace.
Mm.
Peace and harmony. It makes sense now. Paying bills isn't no longer a chore. It's something like I look forward to I look forward to come sit at the same spot and look at my spreadsheet and highlight, knowing that I can do everything if I want to. My friends know I like to be outside. I could pay bills and still be outside. And I can still put money in the bank and I can still do these things. But it doesn't stress me out no more. It's peace. And my word for 2025 is harmony. But I had to find peace before I can even look towards harmony.
Lori, what about you?
I'm sorry. I was like, what was, can you ask the question again?
No problem. So going through your journey, wherever you are in it, right? Like, you have started it, you committed to really understanding your financial position.
Yes.
What freedom did it bring that the dollar itself could not have bought you?
It brought a level of, I want to say, rest. And I mean, I kind of feel like it kind of leans on that same piece, because what your mind does when you feel like you don't have enough, when you feel like you're constantly grinding, when you feel like, you know, it's a strain and it's a drag. It's like a drag on your back, you know. So being able to see that everything's okay, everything is good, your finances are under control, you know, it allows you to have that rest. It allows you to have that peace. And when you have that, you're more available to the people around you. You're more available to your family. Like we talked about earlier, you know, finances touches every area of your life, because when you have that stress on your back, it affects how you show up, you know. And when you can show up without the stress of, what does my finances look like? I need to be at work right now. Oh my God, what I'm gonna do tomorrow when this bill is due? You can really rest, and you can really show up in yourself and be with your family and be with your friends and really enjoy the moments that you're in.
Yeah, thank you. So, Crystal, right, like I talk about your obedience at the end of every show. And you have taken a personal responsibility, this level of accountability, to ensuring that there's a platform for folks to really be able to understand. And oftentimes you give the gift of your knowledge away for free, right? What are the things that you want us to be paying attention to as we begin to consider this financial journey or restarting it? What are some of the things, and why do we need to come see you? What are some of the offerings you will share when I sit across from you, in person or virtually?
So I think the first thing you need to consider is, are you where you want to be financially? And most people are going to not going to say yes to that question. And again, it doesn't matter how much money you make, because we all want to be in a better place financially, right? So if you're not, you may not need what the other person needs, right? It's just like when you go to the doctor, and you mentioned it, putting gas in my car doesn't make me a mechanic. You go to the doctor for your annual pap smear, your whatever those annual exams. You go to the doctor for that. You go to the dentist. You take your car to the mechanic. So that same thing, you need that financial checkup as well, right? You just need it. And there's not a cookie cutter solution. Like the same strategy that I'm going to give Lori would be a different strategy than from Brandi, a different strategy from you. One, because you all want something different. You're all in different places financially. You're all in different places mindset. So you got to consider that. But where do you want to go? How do you want to live the rest of your life? And what type of legacy do you want to leave? Because you're leaving one regardless. So when you start to think of all of that, right? Then it's like, okay, I do need somebody to talk to about that. And it's not the person that sits next to you at work. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not your cousin if they're not doing the things, because it's a lot of 30 and 60-second sound bites out there on social media. But what happens is people don't go and do the research to figure out the entire story behind it, right? So having somebody to talk to. What do I offer? So I'm no longer doing long-term coaching. I'm not taking any new clients for that just because it's not enough hours in the day. But some things that I do is strategy sessions. So there's a couple different offerings where you could say, you know what, I just have some questions because I don't know where I am. I just need a checkup. I want to see, am I doing okay? Just like your doctor would say, oh, you're doing good. I'll see you in another 6 months or another 12 months, right? Or just tweak this a little bit and you'll be doing a whole lot better, right? Or you'll be able to get to your goal. Or then we can do a whole discovery session where then I create a strategy for you based off of what we talk about. Because what I find is because a lot of people are living in survival mode, right? And there's a fire in my kitchen. And so they call and they want strategy for the fire in the kitchen.
Right.
But they got you know what I mean? And so that strategy then you 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 don't have a 4 alarm in your bedroom, but you got a 2 alarm. It's coming, right? And you got a 1 alarm here. And so in that strategy, you're getting that written strategy where you're exposed in these areas as well. And so you need to look at you might not look at them today because you need to fix this fire first. So we got the resolution for the fire, but now you also have the strategy and the checklist, if you will, of all of those other things that you can do. And then from there, you do some things, we can come back and you can do, another session. But the goal is you can't keep doing the same thing thinking you're going to get a different result because you're not. And there is a lot of stuff that's going to happen in this upcoming year. A lot of good things that are going to happen. But if we don't heal our financial relationships, the good things are going to pass us by because we haven't changed our mindset. It's like the person who wins the lottery and 2 years later, they don't have any money.
Right.
If you go to work tomorrow and they give you a $50,000 raise, nothing's going to change if you haven't changed your mindset, your habits, and your practices. So, yeah, strategy. And, through my nonprofit, United Community Solutions, I do a ton of free workshops. Just show up and keep showing up. You're going to find a thing that you need and start somewhere. Just don't keep sitting there.
Love that. I love that. So, Brandi, the gifts you bring, the hats you wear, share with us some of that. So let the folks get to know you from that seat, that perspective.
I lead a Scrum team in the technology space. It's my new passion, learning more about the IT world and brown skin brunching. I'm surrounded by a group of amazing women. Some women I meet, different women every month. I'm a co-ambassador to the chapter, and cultivating communities is a passion of mine. I love bringing women of color together to cultivate relationships. It started from brunches, and now we're getting ready to travel to Colorado in a couple of weeks because the relationships we built in our community to celebrate. It's a lie when they say Black women don't come together and love each other and build community, because I've been able to witness it, help cultivate it, and help love it.
Right.
And then being a member of 100 Black women, that part of me that wants to help, now I get to do it in a structured environment. So I'm not just helping people all willy-nilly and getting taken advantage of. I get to do it now in a structured environment, and I feel like I'm fulfilling that purpose of wanting to help without over giving of myself.
Thank you.
That's me.
Lori, in addition to that, what's the message you want your children to know about your journey?
The thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is just that they don't have to start where I started. All the things that I have done and created and built and structured is for them to be able to take the baton from where I've left off and not rewind all the way back to the beginning and make all the same mistakes and do all the same things and have to rebuild all over again. You know, that's just the biggest drive in my heart, you know, is take everything that I'm offering and build on top of it. Even if it doesn't look the same, you know, just don't go back to the beginning.
I love that. Both of you women are incredible. The vulnerability in which you shared your stories tonight, somebody got better. And if they don't want to claim it, I acknowledge that I got better. You bring the reminder of what it is to believe in something greater that leads to something even better, to not sit in the space that you were in and create the comfort in that, acknowledging that there was something that kind of discomfort you weren't willing to own and make it comfortable for yourselves and for the folks that you are around each day. So I thank you both for the vulnerability and transparencies in which you shared your story. Crystal Gunn, we all get better, whether we're in the room, on the screen, we are in your presence, having more specifically this conversation in all areas, but more specifically in this conversation. Because if there is ever another Black woman that wants somebody to win the way that you do, I don't know her. I have not met her, have not been in the room. You are absolutely incredible. And it really does start with the obedience to the call that God put on your life, to create spaces like this that we can come together and have conversations and uplift and share and encourage, and most importantly, give resources to one another to know whatever place you're in, there's a better place to be. So I thank you for that gift and the way that you bring your gifts to others. Get you a Crystal Gunn in this space if that role is full.
Absolutely.
You need a financial strategist. She dropped all of the ways in which to get a hold of her in the chat. You will bless your life in the generations to come with just one conversation. So I thank you all for your time tonight. Crystal, I turn this over to you.
Y'all know this wasn't long enough. It was not long enough. It was not long enough. But you all are so dope and dynamic and amazing. And I absolutely appreciate you coming on here, being as vulnerable as you were, speaking your truth, because there's some people that watch this live, and then there's some people that will watch this on the replay because of you, because of your vulnerability, because you spoke your truth. They then will believe that they will start to do it, and their lives will be better for it. And that really is what this platform is about. If that's not what we're doing, we don't have no business being on.
Right.
And we are better together, right? We are better together. So one thing that I didn't mention, I do something called family night or girlfriend's night, where you can get 10, 15, 20 people of your family or your girlfriends together, and we can talk about finances and healing, right? We got to start talking about it. We can't just keep operating in the same way and thinking that anything is going to change. And I started this thing last year, get your financial house in order, right? And it is really my push for 2025 and beyond. And I believe Black women will lead the charge in that, not because our Black men can't, not because of any of that, but because of the power of Black women. And so my call to you is, let's rally and do it. You have the ability to impact you, your family, and the communities that you serve. We are the first teachers of our children. So who better would it be than for Black women to lead this? Get your financial house in order so that the 2053 prediction of Blacks having zero wealth does not happen. I am Crystal Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I absolutely, positively own my amazing. Michele.
That you do. That you do. It has been my pleasure to be in company with both you, Lori, and Brandi. Dynamic women, dynamic conversation. There's no other place I'd rather be on a Sunday evening between 7 and 8 Eastern Time, whatever time zone you are joining, because you will not, if you fully acknowledge, leave the room the same that you entered it. If you stand open, ready to receive the gifts of other Black women and their ability to overcome, their ability to figure it out, their ability to acknowledge the ups and downs of life, this is the space where that happens. And this is why I show up and say yes to you every single week, because collectively we get stronger together. So I'm very, very grateful, Crystal, for the ask. And the space and the invitation to lead these conversations and get to know the dynamic women that join us each and every week. My name is Michele Harper, and without apology, I absolutely own my amazing. Lori.
I just want to say thank you to Crystal Gunn for inviting me on. Thank you, Michele Harper, for leading an amazing session. Thank you, Brandi, for sharing the stage with me, because, my nervousness might not have wanted me to do it by myself. I appreciate everyone. This was really, really nice. And I am Yolore McDaniel, and I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
Come on, Brandi.
Well, this is my second time, and this time I didn't want to run away. So I thank you, Crystal. This is my second time, and I didn't want to run this time. So I thank you, Miss Crystal and Miss Michele, for creating a safe space, and Miss Crystal for pushing me outside of my comfort zone each and every day. And my name is Brandi, and I'm a Black woman, and I will forever own my amazing.
Yes, yes, yes.
So Brandi mentioned her journey, the financial coaching and the therapy. And I don't think it's an episode that goes by that I say, okay, I love your therapist. Like, it just because of what you come back into. I don't know if she's watching. I don't know if she'll ever see this episode, but I promise you, I want her on this show to talk about this thing, because the way that from the time that we've started until where you are now, and I'm specifically talking about what you bring in based off of what you discussed in therapy, and then what we discuss, and then you take back to therapy. Like, it really does go hand in hand. And so, if y'all want to know who her dope therapist is, her contact information is in the description. Ask Brandi; she will definitely let you know. So yeah,
it was life changing. My therapist, like, I've had 2 therapists, and this one has really, she's helped change my life. God orchestrated Miss Crystal, my therapist, my tribe, and I wouldn't be the woman I am today if it wasn't for my village. I'm eternally grateful. My heart is full right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Just our sponsor message. The Amazing Women Speak is sponsored by the Amazing Woman Network, which was created to unite and empower Black women globally, focusing on our core pillars of reclaiming our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. We strive to assist every Black woman in owning, honoring, and executing her amazing individually and collectively as it was established at birth. Please find Amazing Women Speak on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Oh, and also Spotify. Whatever your favorite platform, follow, like, share. Don't be a gatekeeper on this information in this podcast. I think we do exactly what we set out to do. So once you go on those platforms, look at the topics and find those that speak to your soul. I promise you, there will be many, and then share them with someone that you know. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for the newcomers and to everybody who tunes in every week. Thank you for all of you guys who have been in the comments today. Could not possibly get to all of you, but we do love and appreciate you. Have a great night, and we will see you next time.
Bye.